Okay, so there's a lot to talk about here today as there is shocking news out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, as Ole Miss head coach Lane Kiffin has announced that he will be leaving Ole Miss and will be joining LSU to be their next head coach. He leaves Ole Miss. So there was a lot of rumors over the last few days and over the last few weeks about his future. When Florida's head coaching job over, and a lot of people thought Lane Kiffin would leave Ole Miss to join Florida, and then Florida was out of the race, and it became, will he stay at Ole Miss or will he go to LSU? Well, he has decided to join LSU, and so we're going to talk about it a bit. So, a little bit of background. Oh, Lane Kiffin was hired on December 7th, 2019 by Ole Miss. He wound up going He wound up 55-19. He was the third winningest head coach in Ole Miss history. He had them at an 11-1 record this year, their best record in the history of Ole Miss football. They were 11-1. They were 11-1 this year thanks to strong play. Thanks to strong play by the team. Obviously they had Trinidad Chambliss, who's playing great at quarterback. Um, they had a phenomenal set of running backs. Kwan Lacey had a great year, and this whole team was just having a lot of fun. And right now they are ranked number 7 in the college football playoff poll. So it's a little bit shocking as to why people think Kiffin did left Ole Miss, and then there was this whole thing last week that came out about with Ole Miss athletic director that said that there's an announcement on his future was expected on the 29th. There was a lot. That was the deadline that Ole Miss kind of gave to Lane Kiffin. They're like, hey, we want a decision by then, because I think they wanted to know what their plan was going to be for the college football playoff. So then they thought the announcement was going to come yesterday, but I think the Iron Bowl held it up. The Iron Bowl, obviously, the matchup between Alabama and Auburn, that happens every year. So this became a talk of not so much if he's going to become head coach. It became what his plan was. And then it was announced this morning that he was expected to announce that he was going to be leaving Ole Miss to go join LSU. LSU, obviously, they fired Brian Kelly this season. They haven't had a great year. Hence why they did fire Brian Kelly. I mean, they're 7-5. They just fired Brian Kelly because they weren't getting the results that they had wanted. By the time they fired him, they were 5-3. They fired him, and their interim head coach became their tight ends coach. And obviously LSU, we know, one of the most historic programs in the nation. They've been consistently good. 821, 441, 47 all time. Four-time national champions. So LSU has a history. And so now we're going to kind of break down a bit how this whole ordeal kind of went about, because it was a little fishy. So obviously, like we talked about, the Iron Bowl and the Egg Bowl and stuff, and then the reported contract is 7 years, $90 million for Lane Kiffin, which can make him the highest paid coach in college football. So he let us know on X that he was going to be leaving LSU. As you can see from this, he pretty much talked about, he pretty much said about the stuff about how, oh, he was super, he's fortunate for his time in Oxford. He wants to root hard for them. And the key part of this was he said that to he wanted to be on this team. He said he wanted to coach through the playoffs and capitalize on the team to critical success and their commitment to finishing strong and investing to a playoff run with guardrails in place. However, his request was denied by Keith Carter, the athletic director, and he says despite the team and the players also asking him to allow him to keep coaching them. So now there's a lot of turmoil about that whole situation, and I guess while I can see why he wanted to coach Ole Miss the rest of the way out, because obviously, he did get them this far, but I think Ole Miss's logic was you you left us, so you are no longer going to be associated with us, which is a valid response. It's like it's like when you say, oh, I'm in this relationship, I've been in this relationship for 3 years, but now I have somebody better that I want, so I'm just gonna go leave this person, do that, but I want to stay with this person for the rest of this time, and it gets a little annoying, and so I guess you can see from that analogy why they won't let him coach, because at the end of the day, he's just going to purge a lot of the roster and the coaching staff. But he did say, with LSU, he did say that if his staff was not boarding a plane to Baton Rouge with him, they would not have a job on his staff. So it'll remain to be seen who all boarded the plane with him to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where he will be the next head coach of LSU football. And the question does, where does Ole Miss go? Ole Miss has made their defensive coordinator, Pat. They have, made their defensive coordinator their new head coach. Their defensive coordinator being Pete Golding. He was their defensive coordinator for the last 3 seasons, and he's going to coach them. At least he's their permanent head coach now. He's obviously now there. That his first coaching job is going to be in the college football playoff with a lot of the roster that Lane Kiffin has. I think my guess is if players are going to transfer out, my guess is if they're going to transfer out, then they're going to wait until after the college football playoff, because that is a big dream. Like to play in the college football playoff. To play in the college football playoff. Like that is a dream even of itself. To be in that situation and to tell yourself, hey, we're here to, transfer, but you get to play in the college football playoffs. So I think a lot of the roster will stay at least throughout the rest of the postseason, and depending on how long Ole Miss is in the college football playoff. And there was Lane Kiffin was seen earlier boarding a plane to Baton Rouge, or from Oxford to Baton Rouge, and they decided, and let's just say Ole Miss fans were not happy. They were booing him out of the building. They were, obviously saying like "F you, Kiffin" and all that stuff. So, which I guess you can see, they're angry. Apparently, and so there was a whole. And then there's supposed to be a thing today where there was supposed to be a team meeting today. It was supposed to be like 9 a.m., but then it got pushed back to like 1 p.m. However, Lane was not at that meeting, as it overlapped with his flight to Baton Rouge. So apparently Lane Kiffin also said that he asked him not come to the meeting today and said he couldn't come, which he said he understood, but he wanted to coach this team. But And there's already been a player or two that have already gone on to social media and pretty much were like, you didn't even say goodbye in person to us, like you just kind of dipped. So, so there's just a lot to unravel in this situation. I don't, it's really hard to figure out who's in the right, who's in the wrong, like, because it's like he's in the right or he's in the wrong. But overall, it'll be interesting to see how, this situation continues to play out and see. There's already some college football personnel who are trying to say that they should change the college football coaching structure. A lot of people think that you should have to wait till the off season like you do in the NFL to take coaching jobs to avoid situations like this. So I don't know. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. So about Lane Kiffin going to LSU and what we think Ole Miss' future is, what we think LSU's future is. I hope you like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.